John Locke has a philosophical theory that your personal identity is composed entirely of your memory and your consciousness, and that when you don't have your memory anymore, you cease to be a person. And the validity of that argument is best left for a different class. But when we look at Alzheimer's disease, we might be able to better understand why Locke thought this. We've all heard of Alzheimer's disease, and we know that it's debilitating, but maybe we don't know why it's debilitating. And that's what I'm going to be covering in my talk today. And to answer this question, we're going to look at the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, the causes, and the treatments that are available. So to begin, what are the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease? I want you to picture that it's 2012, Call Me Maybe has been playing over and over on the radio and it's driving you crazy, and you're a doctor. And you have this couple walk in to your office, and by the end of the visit, you end up having to diagnose Greg with Alzheimer's disease. So when he first came into the office, his wife told the doctor that lately he'd been forgetting just simple things like the fact that he put in a load of laundry. And this was how his memory loss began. It began with simple things, and as the disease progresses, so does the memory loss. So he would end up forgetting things like where he was, even when he was in his own home. He'd forget things like how to put on a shirt, and ultimately he ended up forgetting who the people around him were. He also experienced loss of executive control, so he had trouble with problem solving, judgment, that sort of thing. He had trouble with language, picking the right words for what he wanted to say, comprehending language. And he also became depressed because, like Dr. Watson was saying earlier, when you have a disease like this, it's hard to tell what's going on, and it can lead to confusion and ultimately depression. And all these symptoms, they really make it so everyday functionality is very difficult for the patient, and it makes it difficult on the people around them too, because they end up having to take care of them. So when we look at these symptoms, it makes us wonder, well, what's causing this? And unfortunately, we don't exactly know. We have a lot of things that we see correlation, such as the risk factors like age. At age 60, there's a relatively low chance of getting Alzheimer's disease. It progresses to about 1% at 65, a bit more at 75, and by the time you're 85, you have a 40% chance of getting Alzheimer's disease. So there's obviously a really high correlation between age and disease. Another risk factor are those that are similar in getting heart disease, such as diabetes, smoking, high cholesterol. Whether or not things like age and heart disease are causing Alzheimer's disease is unclear, but we do see a correlation between them. To further try to maybe get at a cause, we turn to the brain. And we see that throughout the brain, we see these amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. What are those? So plaques, they are created from these amyloid beta peptides. And these peptides are normally produced in your brain. But under certain conditions, you get an excess created. And when you have this excess, they bind together and they create these large insoluble plaques outside of your cell. So we see this throughout the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. We also see tangles, which are a product of the tau protein. And in a normal brain, the tau protein binds to microtubule to help stabilize them and give them their structure. But under certain conditions, there's hyperphosphorylation of the tau protein, and that causes the microtubule to destabilize, and then the tau proteins, they tangle together, they combine, and then you see these tangles in the brain. So here's a stain, and you can see the plaques and the tangles are all over the brain. But whether or not these are causing Alzheimer's disease is unclear, because they could just be markers of the disease. We can also look at the idea of maybe the brain burning out as a cause. So in this top two MRIs, you see hubs of functional connectivity, and what that means is these areas in red, they have the most connectivity to the rest of the brain, so they think that these parts of the brain are the ones that are most used in your life. And on the bottom, you can see that those areas actually correlate to the highest levels of plaque deposits. So what all this means is they think that areas in your brain that are used more, they get more of these plaque deposits, and so those plaque deposits are either causing or signaling that the brain there is burning out in some way. What causes that? We don't know. And when we have all these I don't knows in terms of cause, it makes treatment very difficult. So we can try to treat the symptoms. We can use things like acetylcholine esterase inhibitors. Normally, acetylcholine esterase breaks down acetylcholine in the synapse, but when you block that enzyme, it makes it so there's a net increase in the acetylcholine in the synapse and therefore in neurotransmission. And what this is supposed to do is help your memory. And it does, for a little bit. And then the disease progresses as normal. We can also try immune therapy, where you use your immune system to target the beta plaques. So here you can see the antibodies that are supposed to remove the plaques, and then here are the plaques. And they've actually had great success in being able to remove the plaques. They have been able to completely remove it from brains. However, the disease still progresses as normal. So that shows again that these plaques are probably just markers for the disease rather than a cause. So we've looked at the symptoms, we've looked at the causes, and we've looked at the treatment. And we see that we don't know the causes and we don't have a treatment. When we look back at Locke's theory, it begins to make a bit more sense, because as you lose your memory, you lose a bit of who you are. And Alzheimer's disease takes away more than just your memory. So the reason why Alzheimer's disease is so debilitating is because it takes away pieces of our humanity. And we don't know how. And that's why people like us need to be doing more research to figure out the causes so we can get a treatment in order to treat the symptoms and the disease so that we can give people back their humanity. Thank you.
Any questions? No questions? We're usually such a chatty group. You just like answered everything. Great. Maybe it's because we haven't had any snacks. But now we know that we shouldn't be having any.
So we can figure it out too. My stomach is growling. No, it's just like pick it up. Because if you watch the film, my stomach's really growling. This is a lot lighter and like all this happened before you I know.
Okay, we've got one more. It's Natalie, right?
Yes, you work out.
Is there little arrows on it?
Was it the right?
Yeah.